Hi everyone, welcome tonight. Thank you for coming out. My name is Cristin Lowe and I am a divorce attorney, and tonight we are going to be going over all of the divorce forms that you need to get started in the divorce process, and we are going to be helping you. And the reason why we're doing this for you for free is because we love what we do. I really enjoy being a family law attorney. I enjoy helping people through a really difficult time in their lives, and when I go to the courthouse and I see people struggling and trying to get through the divorce process on their own, it's really hard, and I can't help everybody with their divorce, but I'm hoping that by giving seminars like this, that I can help more people than I do right now. So I hope you're comfortable. The reason why we're doing it here instead of at the courthouse, first of all, budget cuts, there's no way they're open tonight. And second of all, we have a little bit more updated equipment and technology than they do, so you don't have to deal with the 60s projectors. All right, so we have our person set up. I have pulled an innocent victim out of this audience, and they're going to be helping me type the forms just to show you that anyone can do it, and it is accessible and it is doable. So we're just going to do this real time, and mistakes and all, we're going to keep going. So if you have any questions, and I know it's hard and this might be a little bit embarrassing to be asking your personal question to everyone here, so you can talk to me afterwards. If not, give me a call afterwards. If you need to email me, let's do that, and we'll make sure everybody has my contact information. And then with that being said, let's get started. All right, next we're going to fill out the proof of service of summons. So let's go back to our commonly used forms. So this is after you filed your papers with the courthouse and you have your case number and you have your filed copies. So what do I mean by service? I mean that the other person, the respondent, has to be personally given the documents. There are exceptions. There are ways that you can mail the documents to them, but they have to be responsible enough to sign something acknowledging that they've been served, and they have to mail that document back to you. So as amicable as it might be in your divorce, if your spouse is less than responsible and less than on top of deadlines and that sort of thing, you probably want to arrange to have them personally served. So personal service does not have to be as scary as it sounds. It's not necessarily those horror stories that you hear, the movies or the TV shows that you see. Now, sometimes it can happen that way. You always have that story where somebody dresses up as Santa or is delivering flowers and then jumps out and says, "You've been served." But let's try and avoid that if at all possible. So we're going to actually go down to the proof of service of summons, which is that FL-115, that FL-115. So a lot of people get confused with this proof of service of summons. So the first thing you need to remember is this does not go over to the courthouse with your initial documents. Your initial documents are the petition, the summons, and the UCCJEA if you have minor children of your relationship. This one happens after the person has been served. Okay? So it starts off the same way as every other form starts off. So we want to put your name, and again we're with Jamie Smith as our example, and we have his address, which is the 123 Main Street, and the city and the state and the zip code. And we have a phone number. Okay, so the information is just going to be the same. I'm going to talk through and then let the typing catch up. But County of Contra Costa, we have the street address, which is the 751 Pine Street, the mailing address, which is the P.O. Box 911, the city and the state, Martinez, California, 94553. And then we're going to have the petitioner, meaning Jamie Smith, and we'll have the respondent, who is Dale Smith. In this case, since you've already filed and you're at the service, you do have a case number. Just so you know how Contra Costa's case numbers work, it's going to start with a D, and it's going to have the year. So let's say D14, and there will be a hyphen, and it'll be a 5-digit number based on however many cases there have been. Solano County, for example, is always FFL. 14 would be for 2014, and then there would be several numbers after that. For Alameda County, if it's Hayward, it would be HF. If it's Alameda, it's AF. It's just a number. And just so you have a secret kind of insider tip, so almost every county has a website where you can access your case filing. You can't actually see the physical documents that have been filed, but you can see what has been filed. So respondent, we've got Dale Smith. So going back to that, just make sure that you know what your courthouse's website is. So for example, Contra Costa County is cc-courts.org, and you can go, and it's called Open Access. For Solano County, it's solanocourts.com. Okay, so let's go down to the proof of service of summons. We're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're not going to be able to fill out all the information because we have a hypothetical service. but we can talk a little bit about the details. So, I always tell people to read this form when you want to understand what service is. So service has to be personally, meaning the respondent has to be physically handed the documents by somebody, meaning an actual person over the age of 18, meaning an adult, who is not a party to the action. Who is a party to the action? The petitioner. So the petitioner can't serve the respondent, respondent can't serve the petitioner. So basically, anyone over the age of 18 who isn't you can serve. So that can be your best friend, it can be your mother, it can be some adult, I should say, that you got off the street and paid $20 to do it. You could hire a professional process server if you wanted to, and I'm sure you get a great story out of that if you did. But in general, my kind of common sense tips are use somebody that is not going to make your spouse uncomfortable. Why? Because as much as you might want to say, oh, I'm going to serve you on Valentine's Day, or I'm going to serve you on the day of our anniversary, that's really kind of mean, and it doesn't really help your case, okay? When you're trying to do this alone, the last thing you want to do is create complications in your divorce case. And you might feel really good about serving them on this day that just is meant to make them feel bad, like on their birthday or something, but it doesn't really help. Why? Because you've just made them upset. And your goal is to do this as amicably as possible, if for nothing else than for selfish purposes. You don't want to go to court for the next 3 years. You don't have to fight about these things. You want to be able to move on with your life. So in general, you want to make it as easy as possible. And when I say it can't be you, you can meet at Starbucks with some adult and that person can hand your spouse the documents. You've done service. You can have your spouse come by your house, and again, there's that other adult there, and pick up the papers. That's service, okay? It doesn't have to be embarrassing. Probably the worst service I think I ever heard of was the husband was in Hawaii on their anniversary trip. The wife said she had gotten sick and he should just go without her. And then she served him in Hawaii on their 7th anniversary. Okay, don't do that. Please don't. On the good side, he's very, very happily married. He's got kids now, and he's just having a fantastic life. So it all worked out for the best, but it was really rocky for the first few months, understandably so. All right. So, at the time of service, you're at least 18 years of age. This is the person who does the service who actually has to fill out this form. I serve the respondent with family law. And we're going to check box A, because we're doing a divorce. And you know we've already done the petition and the summons. And a blank response. Well, what is that? It is what it means. It means that you have to go and print out that FL-115. You leave it blank. You don't have to do anything. It says blank. And that's part of your service packet. If you have children, you're going to go down to E1, because we already did that form as well, completed and blank.
Do we mark this one?
Nope. Like I said, 1A only. We're going to go down to E, and we're going to check 1. Okay, so that's what you're serving. You're serving, again, going back up to A, petition, summons, and ECCJEA. So those are the 3 forms we've already done. So the proof of service summons, you're going to serve those 3 forms. There are plenty of other scenarios where you'd serve more documents than this, but we are, again, assuming that you are just filing for divorce and you're serving your spouse with the initial divorce papers. So the rest of this is going to be blank as far as 1. So let's keep scrolling down. The only exception to this is depending on the county that you live in. Now they are sometimes mandating a court appearance 6, 9, or 12 months in, and that would be under the other. But we are going to skip that tonight, and Contra Costa County actually doesn't mandate those court hearings, so we don't have to worry about that. Number 2, address where respondent was served. You're going to fill in, when it comes appropriate, where that person was served. Again, it can be Starbucks, it can be McDonald's, it can be your house. It could be their work. I really encourage you to avoid that because it's embarrassing to your spouse. Again, I discourage serving at the gym or in the middle of their school or anything public, and I definitely 100% do not advocate serving when your kids are around. If you are going to try and do anything that you just want to get revenge, I can't stop you from that, but please don't involve your children. That's just not appropriate, and if a judge found out that the kids were involved, usually doesn't bode well for custody and visitation. Okay, so, we have a Disneyland, so that's where they were served. The happiest place on earth, that's very appropriate. Let's keep going down. So we're going to go number 3. And again, I'm going to encourage, for the most part, personal service. That means an adult is physically handing them the document in person. So we're going to check A. I really discourage substituted service. It's difficult, it's legally technical. If you are going to do substituted service, you're going to need an attorney for that, almost guaranteed, to walk you through the different nuances. So personal service, you're going to fill in when that person is served, the date, and you need to go forward and actually fill out the time that that person was served. Again, you can't fill out this form with the initial divorce documents. You can't fill it out until after the person's been served. So you get the specific dates and the times. And this is one of those forms that and you might feel like you're at the beginning right now, and you are, but you need to set this up right, because judgments, meaning your final divorce papers, they get bounced back and they got rejected a lot of times because these weren't filled out properly. So do take the time to fill this out. You don't want to just leave 9 o'clock. You want AM or PM. The clerks, some of them are really, really detail oriented, and they go through, and their job is to make sure that you filled out all of these forms correctly. So don't get your judgment bounced. Don't delay your divorce for technicality. Okay, so let's keep going down to page 2. Okay, and we are going to keep going down to number 4. Because again, we're not doing any other service except personal service. And we're going to check, we are going to check 4A. Because that's what you did on the summons. You served him as an individual, or you served her as an individual. All right, so number 5, now comes the time of the person who actually served the papers. Again, cannot be you. It's got to be somebody over at least age 18 or over the age of 18 who isn't you. You put down their name, their address, their phone number. And we'll just pick any sort of name. Again, try and be nice with the service. Don't use your new significant other. That's really a bad idea. That's probably going to kick off some sort of restraining order, domestic violence, or if nothing else, the police being called out. It's just not a good idea. And when we talk about who this person is, it does not have to be a registered process server. And in fact, most services aren't done with a registered process server. If you are concerned for any domestic violence reason, if you're concerned that your spouse is going to react poorly, then you might want to consider hiring a process server. Why? Because they're experienced at it, they know what to expect, they're prepared, and they know kind of how to protect themselves, and they've already seen it and done it all. So you don't have to worry about it. If family members are uncomfortable with the idea, please don't put them in the middle. Process servers aren't typically that expensive. You'll run anywhere from $50 to $150. If you have questions or you want somebody, please give us a call. We'll be able to refer you to someone really good. All right, so for most people, if you're not a registered process server, you check 5B. So for most of you, you're going to be checking 5B. If there is a registered process server, you don't even have to worry about this. Any good registered process server is going to fill out this form for you. Okay, if you had to pay for the service, whether it's your friend or whether it's a professional process server, you do need to disclose that, and you need to put the amount down there. And then number 6, you are going to check the box. That person is going to declare under penalty of perjury. And if the sheriff's office does it for you or any sort of professional, they will fill out this form for you. But then you would scroll down to the bottom. It's not you signing this form. Remember, you are not doing the service. So it's got to be whoever is serving the papers is the one that's signing. Once they sign it, they need to give you the original. Why? Because you need to file that with the court. Unless and until this is filed with the court, the judge does not know that your spouse has been served. So it is very, very important that this document get filed with the court. This is your proof. This is the only thing that proves to the judge that your spouse was served. So it is very, very important that this gets done and this gets filled out and filed with the court. Why is the date of service important? Because that is the date that your clock starts ticking. So in California, it's a minimum of 6 months and a day to get a divorce. And that 6 months and a day doesn't start when you file the papers. It starts the date your spouse is served. So if you are in a hurry and you want to keep your divorce as close to 6 months and a day as possible, that date of service, this proof of service, very, very important. The judgment will get bounced or rejected if it's not filled out correctly or if it's not filed with the court. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we are going to go on to our next set of documents. Hi, I'm Cristin Lowe. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope that I was able to help you through this really difficult time in your life. I'd like to invite you to hit like or comment or subscribe to our video series. If you have any specific questions regarding the form or regarding the divorce process itself, please email me directly at Cristin@CristinLoweLaw.com. Thanks again.